Welcome to Computer Private Limited, e-learning program of hardware networking. Today we are going to discuss about connecting computers in work group. So here the concept we are going to discuss is how we are going to establish a network communication between the computers. Say it is a lab setup or a small kind of connectivity setup in the projects, like for testing the applications. They wanted to test some 5 systems or 10 systems, so they wanted to connect computers together so that they can run the simulation of establishing a connectivity between the application and the server. So for these kind of setups, we'll be creating a small network where the number of systems are limited, and there is no server, no client concept. All the machines will be playing an equal role. So that we call that as a work group model. So we can have all endpoint as a desktop operating system or server operating system. Normally we call it as a member server, because if there is any domain controller configured, we call it as a domain-based network. But in case of work group, we will not have that kind of dedicated servers. So each server or each endpoint will be playing an equal role. The purpose of this particular setup is to have communication between computers and share the information among the computers for demo purpose, or for doing a testing of applications. We'll be going with this kind of work group model. So we have seen the star topology, right? By using a hub, by using a switch, we can have some 10 system or 15 system connected together, and Cat5 cables will be using it. Cat5 or Cat6 we can use, and establish a network. Okay, so that is the one we are going to discuss over here. So this is created for internet browsing center, college lab purpose, or project lab purpose. There is no security enabled here, so you cannot expect complete application security and all. But for establishing a demo setup, we can use this kind of work group model. So advantage of work group is usually designed for small local area networks such as schools, homes, and small business. Easy to install and configure, so no expert knowledge is required. Just install a OS in the computer and start using the computer and interact with the other computers. So you buy a laptop from a market, you just connect it, you'll start working with that. So no separate setup is required for expanding the networks. Functions best with fewer computers. If you go with 25-50 computers in this model, managing them will be a difficult part. So limited numbers is 10 or maximum 12, not more than that. So all content resources can be shared with the peers in the network. So no restriction or no security. Everything will be shared. Everybody can see everybody's data. So there is no hardware dependencies, right? So as I told you, so one system can be a desktop, one system can be a laptop, one system can be a server model. Okay, so there is no differentiation or segregation of hardware-based models here. So larger network, instead of having a large networks commonly shared, we can group it as a small work groups, like finance one work group, accounts department one work group, HR one work group, marketing one work group. So we can establish a separate work group. If at all we wanted to communicate between the departments, we can establish additional network connectivity. Otherwise, we can separately work as a small group itself. So logical connection or logical management will be easy, but actual management will be difficult, because keeping a track of software inventories or keeping a track of asset details, so all those things will be difficult. So disadvantages, first main drawback is security. So there is no security for the data, there is no security for the individual informations, right? So everything is kept as open. It is not recommended for a critical project, critical customer. Suppose you are running a project for a healthcare customer. Definitely this is not the criteria, because for running the healthcare or life science, we should be certified with compliance parameters as per the international standards. So we should meet the compliance requirements. So they'll be providing a lot of restrictions for getting the projects. Once we meet the requirement, only customer will sign off the project with our client companies. Okay, so we cannot establish those kind of business with this work group model. There is no centralized management, so resources are spread across. It will be there, so if you want, you use it. So there is no control of resources. Same, I can print a number of pages, nobody can control me. I can browse internet, I can download anything from the internet. Nobody can restrict me because there is no central monitoring or central restriction. So these are all disadvantage of workgroup model. So for suggestion purpose, we can have workgroup model for internal browsing centers or college lab purpose, not for any organizations. Even if it is 50 systems, 100 systems, better to go for a domain-based model. So in case of domain-based network, definitely you will have a server installed with the domain controller that will be having a domain setup, and we'll be attaching all the endpoints to that particular domain. So we'll have centralized control, right? You'll have better management. So authentication purpose will be there, and if I have established a NTFS file system, then I can secure my file level details, so nobody can take my data. And I can have controlled internet. I can restrict people in taking printouts like 25 pages per day. Likewise, I can configure a print server and I can do it. I can have a web server, proxy server to restrict the internet access to the end users and monitor their internet activities. Anything suspicious, vulnerable, we can restrict the access. So domain controller will be there. So the one which is very critical will be called as a primary domain controller. And to support that, we will be having additional domain controller or backup domain controller. So there will be 2 domain controllers available, and we'll be having a sync between the domain controllers. So anytime if domain controller 1 goes down, immediately the second domain controller will be marked as a primary. So you will not have any problem in accessing the network. So that is the advantage of domain-based network. But this particular topic is relevant with the workgroup. So we'll see more about workgroup. So just giving you a hint about the domain-based model. Difference between domain and workgroup. In case of workgroup, all computers are peer-to-peer network, whereas in case of domain, network admin will have control access to all the systems. In a workgroup, each computer maintains their own database. In case of domain, the domain controller will have the control on the entire database. Workgroup, each computer has their own authentication rules. Workgroup, each computer has set of user. So I'll be creating a local user. So that will be working only for that computer. So if at all I go and use that username in the second computer, it will not work because the user account is localized. So in case of workgroup model, and workgroup does not bind anything to the security. Computer setting need to be changed manually. You don't have any centralized policy setup. All computers must be on the same local area network. So if I have different kind of network, I cannot connect it. So 10 to 20 computers, not more than that. In case of domain model, so we'll have centralized domain controller, which will be controlling all the computers for authentication purpose. So if you are not the authorized user, you will not be allowed to use the resources inside the organization. So some outsiders coming and logging into the desktop or laptop, they cannot log in because they don't know what is a username and what is a password, right? But some people write their username and password in the poster and paste it, right? So that time we have a risk. So people can log in and take the data from our computer. So that is a restriction we have to make. So user account is in domain, and we'll be able to log into any of the computer in the domain, so that I can use the resource. I need not waste my time, right? If somebody using my computer, so I can go and access the computer which is free. Still I will be able to access all my data because it is in the server share path, and I don't have anything in my desktop. It is centralized. So domain computers can be on a different local area network. We can combine even if you have multiple networks available. In a domain, you can have thousands of computers. There is no limit as such. Microsoft is mentioning it. Even we can have lakhs and lakhs of computers in a single domain, single forest. So how to check whether my computer is in a work group or in a domain? So if it is a corporate network, definitely your machine is in domain. Blindly you can say it is in domain. So there are no work group machines available in the corporate network. Everything will be connected to the domain only. But rare cases, if any customer is wanted, separate a system without connecting it to the domain, we'll get the approvals from the security team, and then we'll establish that particular mission. So if at all I want to find out what I can do, I can go to control panel, system and security, go to system. You can find out whether it is in domain or in work group. So here it is mentioned as a work group. The name of the work group itself is work group only. I can have any other names, so it is not a problem. I can change the name. There's a change settings available. I can just click on it, and I can go and change the work group name. So if I wanted to group the missions, other missions should be falling under the same work group. So if I have work group 1, all the missions should be named as work group 1 only, the work group name. So then automatically all the missions will be connected in a same network. Okay, IP address range should be same. Range should be same. You can have a unique IP address, but range should be on the same range. And then work group name should be same, so that immediately as you add one mission, it will get added into the existing network. So you need not do any kind of additional changes or additional requirement. So you're seeing a network location. So once you connect, plug in the network, you'll see whether it is home network, work network or public network. Probably this will happen in laptop, because sometimes in home we use a laptop wireless connection, in office we use a LAN connection. So based on which we can identify what kind of network we have. So things required for connecting systems in workgroup: you should have desktops, laptops, combination, Cat5 and Cat6 cables, switch or hub. Based on your requirement, you can have the system. Then power connector for switch, the adapters, power adapters. So mission, what is the requirement in the mission? We need to ensure all the missions are powered on and the network interface card is connected into the hub or switch. So keep the switch or hub in any corner and lay the cables from the desktop to hubs. So if you are setting up the browsing center, so what we used to do, in corner we will keep the hub or switch. All the cables will be laying from each computer to that particular hub. You'll just insert it, so nothing required in the configuration part. All the desktops should be in the same workgroup name. So if you change the workgroup name, then it will become a different entity. So we should fall under same workgroup names. If it is workgroup 1, all the computers should be given workgroup 1. If at all you wanted to form another workgroup, create a mission with the same different workgroup name as workgroup 2. So you cannot communicate between workgroup 1 and workgroup 2 because it is a separate entity. If any printer is needed to be shared, so you can install it in any one machine, and from that machine you can share it, so all other people in that work group, they can use this printer setup. So how to connect the systems into the hub, just having a demo here. So here we are seeing we have a D-Link switch. You can find 8 ports. So it is an unmanageable switch, and you're seeing the power signal, right? So it is powered on and it has 8 ports. So it has 8 ports available, and you'll be able to see whether it is active or not. Once the system is powered on, it will show you green color light. There is an option available in the switch. If it is 10 Mbps, it will be amber, or 100 Mbps, it will be green. So I'm just using 3 laptops, connecting the cables. So I'm taking all the cables from the laptop, just plugging in one by one. So no other special configuration is required to establish a workgroup model. So in case of domain network, that will be totally different, but workgroup is so simple to set up. That's it. So all the computers are connected together now, and it is ready for communicating between the systems. Now what you have to do, you'll have to assign an IP address to the computers. You'll have to assign the IP address to the computer, so that each computer will fall under the same workgroup. So now we are ensuring that 2 things. One is workgroup name should be same, and IP address should be in the same range. So what I'm doing now, just going to give IP address in my computer. So this is the Windows 10 machine. So what I'm doing is, just see the demo. So go to search option, type settings, you will get settings. In that, choose network and internet option, and we are going to assign IP address for the Ethernet adapter. Select the Ethernet adapter, double click on it. It is asking network profile, private, public, so that is different. So where we have to go? We have to go to IP settings. So it is saying automatically assign DHCP IP address from a DHCP. I go for editing it. So I'm choosing manual option and just entering the IP address 190.168, whatever it is as per the standard what I have in my network. So IP address, subnet mask, and gateway. That's it. So nothing else required to be done from the endpoint. So once you are doing this and just giving save and OK, then all other missions you have to give like this. Then immediately the mission will have a establishment of communication between the computers. So you can ping, or you can just open / computer name. You'll be able to see the resources availability. You can share the resources. You can keep one system for backup and create folders like date-wise folder or month-wise folder. So you can ask the project team to keep the contents from all your system to the central repository. So even if project team's individual's desktop data goes off, you can take the data from the central repository. So those kind of things can be done from Workgroup computers. So some of the questions I've collected from internet, interview questions. So we have completed the topic on workgroup establishment. That comes to the end of workgroup setup. So you start using the workgroup, share the data, share the resources. That's it. No other extra setup is required for workgroup connectivity establishment. Now going through some of the questions, right? So in interview or in exams, they'll be asking these kind of basic questions, right? So what is a NIC, network interface card? It is used for connecting the network for a desktop or laptop. What is the difference between internet, intranet, and extranet? You should be knowing the difference between this setup. So internet is using the public IPs and used for connecting any computer across any part of the world. Intranet used for specific organization. It may be connected for LAN or specific network. Extranet is for again global network, for establishing a global network for a private customer. And what is meant by 127? So it is a loopback address. So for testing the own network adapter, we are using this loopback address. What are the different types of network? So it is LAN, MAN, WAN. You have different types of network. Difference between domain and workgroup. We have seen the example. So workgroup is required only for small number of computers. For a major number of systems, we go for domain setup. How to share the resources? You create a folder, right click on the folder, and you click share. So it will be shared for everyone. So other person, whoever wanted to use the share, what he will do? Go to run / the computer name. You'll be able to open the share path. Is data secured in our group model? No, it is not secured. What is the maximum size of computers to be connected? Recommended is 10, maximum 20, not more than that. What is the meaning of topologies? It is the way we connect the network and the machines. So it is like an architecture of a network is called topology. We have bus topology, star topology, ring topology, etc. What will happen if we use the workgroup model for larger network? It becomes complex to manage, and we cannot properly utilize the resources, and data security is in toss. So considering all these things, we have to recommend for a domain-based model. So we have reached the end of the topic, and we have discussed about setting up the computer in a workgroup for small lab setup or internet browsing center setup. And we have seen the difference between domain and workgroup, as well as now we have seen the information about the workgroup model, some of the interview questions about the workgroup model. Thank you very much.